Greetings and salutations. This is Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we're going to ask a hell of a lot of questions. Those of you that want to plug into the show on a regular basis and get updates on I can't even talk right now, on a regular basis, can plug into patreon.com/The Bitter Truth, where you can become a bitter pill for a mere $2, less than a can of a Lone Star is what you'll be basically doing. My guest tonight is I have two guests tonight. Kerry McKennon, who's running for lieutenant governor for the state of Texas for the Libertarian ticket, and his campaign manager, Ryan Simpson. And Ryan's a friend of the show. He's been on before, and we're going to talk to Kerry and Ryan about their campaign. The fall's right around the corner, like 3 months away from Election Day. And if you're familiar with the state of Texas and sort of the drama and the politics that go on, we've got Lieutenant Dan, who's the lieutenant governor of Texas.
He's got no legs to stand on.
No legs to stand on. And he's not well liked. So, but Kerry, let's just jump into it really quick. I want to talk about some of the simpler parts of your platform. I know that when Ryan and I had talked before, and you and I, it's the first time we're speaking, and I appreciate you coming on the show. One of the things you want to try to do, and I don't know if this could be done statewide or nationwide, but you wanted to have a candidate should have no more than like one letter by their name. Parties should be able to nominate more than one. You want to clarify that a little bit?
So sometimes when there's multiple letters by a candidate's name, you'll have a GOP, a DEM, and then an LIB for Libertarians is what we have right now in the state of Texas. And in other states, there's either just a one letter, so, an R for Republican. Sometimes the Republicans will have REP. That's what they have in Texas. But it'll have an R, a D, and an L. Some states have the full party, like California, I think, has the full name of the party. Because they have like 25 parties out there. They're kind of crazy. I mean, they're all for liberty crazy out there in regards to the elections part. Yeah. Now, for here in Texas, we can solicit or make a case to the Secretary of State to change that, but the three letters that we would choose have to be in the word Libertarian. So we can't do LBT. I mean, we can't do LBY, or LTY, because that might mean liberty, and God forbid we say that the Libertarian Party is about liberty. So we have LTN, LBT. I think since we're doing away with straight party ticket voting in 2020, right, I'd like to just see them have no letters by any name. And let people just go in there based on the person's name recognition. The only other option that I think is fair, in my sense on this, is just the one letter. Right. Okay. An R, a D, an L, a G if it's green, a C if it's Constitution Party, whatever it happens to be. Sure. Because, sometimes I think people just go in and we have a lot of...
Do you know what's next to Libertarian right now? LIB.
Yeah, LIB.
Lib. Oh, okay. Well, it beats fascist. It beats Nazi, doesn't it?
True, but they're going to see what the average voter is going to go to the
already represented.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You're the average moron is going to think liberal, right?
Yep.
God forbid. Okay. Well, and that's sad. Because,
granted, we're the original liberals.
Well, and that's sad because there's no liberals anymore. So it's just you got a bunch of Hillary Clinton corporate Democrat not heads. But okay, well, and Kerry, and this is not a secret, so I want to talk about this a little bit and what your experience has been in Texas. I mean, obviously, you're the first gay man running for statewide office. How has that been received in the state of Texas? We're a very, very red state. Had an RNC person in here a few weeks back, Felicia Bull, great lady. She's a log cabin Republican, and we went back and forth on that for a while because I was like, why are you in that fucking party? Go join the Libertarians. They don't care.
Did she say anything about me?
No, she did not. She was very general about the party, and when I kept bugging her about joining you guys because she's supposedly conservative, and
I won't repeat what she's told me.
Okay, well, she doesn't like me. I tell you, she's a sweet kid, but she doesn't like me. But no, she basically said that she thinks she could get more education politically out of the Republicans because they're more organized, and that she sees the Libertarians and the Greens, for that matter, as parties that charge along, get the name out there, but there's no infrastructure to back up any sort of real platform. How do you combat something like that? Running as a Libertarian, running as the first gay man statewide, and that's my other question. Is how. My first question actually was how have you been received among the party and in Texas?
Well, the Libertarian Party is, since 1972, has had in their platform about equality regarding relationships, marriage equality. So within that sense, since 1972, the Libertarian Party has been talking about liberty in some of the most topics that are controversial long before it was ever popular.
Sure.
Even the Democrats that ran in 2008 some of them weren't even talking about marriage equality,
right?
Till it passed the Supreme Court. Now, with that said, the Libertarian Party in 1972 had everyone knew that he was gay. He wasn't really out in the open, screaming, throwing a rainbow flag.
Not in 1972. No.
Right?
Yeah.
But everybody knew that he was gay, and he was our presidential nominee. And we had a Jewish woman as our vice presidential nominee.
First.
And they got one electoral vote.
Wait, and say the name again, who this person was?
It's Hospers.
Hospers?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And I'm sorry, his first name was?
John
Hospers. Okay. And pardon me for not knowing that. Well, in the 70s, there's all you had was Harvey Milk and Stonewall. There was no Will and Grace. There was no safe space. There was nothing. I had a cousin come out when we were 14 years old. He had nothing.
You had the guy on. You had Billy Crystal on Soap.
Yeah. Well, I was in 10th grade by then.
Yeah. I mean, that was your big gay character. I mean, when I was growing up, you weren't gay. Okay. You just weren't.
Sure. Absolutely.
It was, even if you had inklings that you thought that you were attracted to the same sex, you hid that from everybody that you could, because you would get ridiculed at school.
Sure,
you would
absolutely.
get ridiculed at church.
It was a very different time.
And at home.
Yeah, it was a very different time. Absolutely.
I never once in my wildest dreams believed that the Libertarian Party, or any party for that matter, would embrace me as an openly gay man. And pretty much when I was nominated at the convention, it was it was not only a show of hands, it was a show of applause.
Wow.
For me to be the nominee.
Okay.
Now, granted, I don't know if it's because of how awesome I am. Nobody else
it's the freedom sign
filed to run. So it was either me or Noda, which is none of the above, which we always have in the Libertarian Party. But when they asked any votes for none of the above, it was pure silence.
Right.
And we have some conservative members of the Libertarian Party as well as some very liberal members.
Oh, no, I know that. I'm from California. I've been here 3.5 years, and I thought I was a Libertarian in California, and Libertarians in California are very different than Libertarians in Texas. It's not like a statewide monolith, cookie cutter bunch of guys. California, we're just a bunch of pissed off Democrats that just wanted to, smoke pot and pay lower taxes. And out here, it's another country, man. It's another. That's why I'm asking you specifically, because I met some folks that they seem like a bunch of frustrated Republicans, to be honest with you, and they thought that maybe
some of them are.
Yeah. So that's my limited exposure. That's my limited exposure to probably 20, 30 people, 40 people. But it just seemed like the general consensus was and I want to get into some of these things because I know that on the platform, the Libertarian platform, for example, you are allowed to negotiate with your employer through either collective bargaining or as an individual, the most optimum wage for yourself. That I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically. But in Texas, we're a right to work state. Where do you guys stand on right to work? Where do you guys stand on moving forward on that? Because the states that do have collective bargaining, fire, cops, nurses, teachers, they actually do enjoy a better wage, and they actually do enjoy a better retirement than states that have a right to work imposed on them? Where does the Libertarian Party fall into that? Even though, and given that it's on your platform, I'm not making this up.
Right. So we're not anti-union in the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
We're anti-mandatory. We want you. That's a consented thing. You should be allowed to join the union if you want to, or not.
Yeah, but see, that's a cop-out, though, and I'll tell you why. Because here's the thing. I was in the teachers' union about 16, 17 years ago, the only gig I ever had with a union. I was substitute teaching in the Los Angeles Unified School District. And the option was $25 a month if you're going to join, $20 a month if you don't join, which I thought was kind of stupid. But then the other part of it is you do enjoy the benefits. You get a higher wage. You're getting better benefits for a lower cost, lower contribution. So you're benefiting from the union. So the whole, why can't it be mandated if you're going to benefit from the union?
Well, I was speaking in terms of in regards to the right to work state.
Okay.
So being a right to work state, since that's where we are right now, having something that would be mandatory is going to contradict that. But I don't think, even with the right to work state, I don't think there would be anyone that would say that people couldn't pull together and have voluntary association.
Sure.
And freedom of association should they choose to. That's very libertarian.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I'll give you an example. So in Texas, we've got 254 counties, 9 of which have collective bargaining, Bexar County, the closest one being one of them. And I work with some of the guys down in Bexar County. And they, fire, cops, sheriffs, constables, they're all unionized. And they get their raises, and they arbitrate, and they act like a union. The associations I work with in Texas, because I do employee benefits for my day gig. I'm just a loudmouth with a microphone. Not a journalist, none of that stuff. But the associations that I work with that are not collective bargaining, that are just an association, there's no teeth. They are continually fighting to protect their pensions. They're continually fighting to get an increase. I mean, Travis County sheriffs have had a freeze for 13 years. They haven't had a raise in 13 years. So it's like, where do we get off telling people who put their lives on the line, risking their lives? And I'm sure some of my listeners get all pissy pants with me and go, "Well, there's those cops." Yeah, there are, and there are those realtors that participated in the mortgage debacle too. They're a bunch of assholes out in life, but there's 99% of these people are actually good people, hardworking people. But Travis County sheriffs, for example, they haven't had a raise in 13 years, and they are not collective bargaining. They are not a traditional union. They're, like you said, an association. And the reality of it is they're not able to negotiate in any real kind of a way. Yeah, so moving forward, what do we do platform-wise? What do we do that gets us away from the two-party system? That is what they do, is have a bunch of platitudes. What do we do to ensure that we can actually get the best for our workers without just another bromide?
It's hard. That is a hard concept within the Libertarian Party of the embracing of unions as a whole, not voluntary unions, but mandatory unions, to where they would dictate and have that collective bargaining to an actual business owner.
But see, what's the alternative, though? The business owner dictating to the worker. I see it here in Texas all the time. Teachers don't even have a union. Nurses don't even have a union. They don't even have an association. So,
even the AT&T workers have a union that does collective bargaining for them here in Texas, whereas the teachers don't.
Right. Well, and AT&T is a national company, so they deal with SEIU or something like that, or AFL-CIO. So they're able to lump in the communication workers union with AFL-CIO, which is a nationwide union, and so they're able to negotiate in that way. But generally speaking, we don't have collective bargaining in 245 out of 254 counties. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Where, to me, it's a cop out to say, we don't want the worker being dictated to. Well, he's dictated to. He's dictated to by his boss, and he's taking less. So what do we do to ensure that he's able to get more? And to say that he's, forced to join a union. Well, if he's enjoying the benefits, then why not kick in the $15 a month or whatever it is? I know for a fact, Bexar County, the sheriff's there, it's $10 a month. And those guys just got a 9% raise with a 4% increase each of the next 4 years. So right. Why shouldn't, and they also are there to handle arbitration, handle any sort of administrative, internal investigations, the whole 9 yards. So, but if you're not paying your $10, you don't get that service, but you get to benefit from the higher wages and the better benefits, say, for example, compared to Travis County. So why shouldn't that person kick in his $10? It's like we're on a trip together. We're in a car, and I stop off to get beer before we get to the hotel. You're really not going to give me any money for the case I just got? You're not going to give me $5? That sucks.
I thought you loved me, Abe. You just wanted to give me the
Well, it's a whole other conversation, Kerry. You might be able to make me feel special in special places that I never knew I had. That's a whole other conversation. Scandal. Oh, scandal. This is the money shot right here. This is what gets on Fox News. This is what gets on Fox News, and they try to say, "See, the libertarians, they're a bunch of moral degenerates."
Look, on Wednesday, Walter and I will be married 10 years.
Okay.
And we are just like an old married couple, and we probably are, if we were even probably a tenth of exciting as people thought we were.
Well, you're married.
We'd be having a gay old time.
Yeah, you're married. You're married. That's that doesn't make any difference. You're married. I don't care if you're gay or straight. You're married. That's the way that goes. I don't know why people would sign up for. If you were gay, that means you get to get out of the Army and you get out of being married. Why do these people want to join the Army and go run and get married? That's good. Okay, you got the right to do it. Awesome. But why? I got friends that are miserable. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. So
I am personally pro-union.
Okay.
Me personally, myself, I have. I used to be a member of AFTRA when I was in New York and LA.
Okay.
When I was on Arrested Development as the Freedom Guy, that was an AFTRA gig for me.
Oh, awesome! I didn't. Okay, gotta check that out.
That was the freedom sign.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I was like in 6 episodes, and Horowitz never gave me a line except I did. I was in a little gay heaven because I did get to be in the makeup trailer with Liza Minnelli. And, I mean, that's a breath away from Judy, Abe.
Yeah.
A breath away from Judy, okay?
Yeah, y'all have a tattoo? You got a Liza tattoo?
I don't have a Liza tattoo. Okay. I have a fairy. Nobody knows this, and I just told everybody this, right? I have a fairy tattoo on my left shoulder.
But Okay.
So it's a fairy on a fairy. But anyway.
Good times.
That's why our team is called Kerry's Fairies.
Kerry's Fairies. Good times. Good. See, but you got to be cool with that, man. You got to see. When I date a chick, I carry her purse. I don't give a fuck. It's.
We don't care.
Yeah.
People are excited. They're like, "I'll be a fairy."
Yeah, but I know you, Abe. I know you make sure it matches your shoes first, right?
You know what? I'm OCD. Actually, I do. I won't carry it if it doesn't match my shoes. What the fuck?
I figured as much.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay, but in all seriousness, though, you're pro-union personally. So you're pro-union personally, and so why not carry that?
I think we have to work out a way of how can that be beneficial for the worker here in Texas. I don't think Texas is going to change from a right-to-work state. I just think there are too many people that are in love with that.
So my 2 cents is,
as far as
the union provides a product. Owners.
Wait, say that again?
The union does provide a product that we're not considering, and a big part of that is training.
100%.
And, my dad has always said, you get a union plumber, you get a normal plumber. The union plumber is going to do much better work, but you're going to pay an arm and a leg. So, I think it's just...
But he has to come back a second time.
Yeah.
Generally.
I would say, based on Texas, because it's a right-to-work state,
right.
Part of the union's issue with becoming more of a Texas thing is PR. Well, every time that we hear unions, it's anti-business.
Right.
I mean, we don't. So we need the unions themselves to have a foothold in Texas have got to work on their PR. Then they have to be able to sell that not only to the workers but to the businesses of why this is a better fit for them to be a union. And I think some of our larger counties, our more urban counties, can definitely take some initiative from some of our counties that have some collective bargaining and see how that works.
Sure.
But I live in a very rural county, and that county would, if we based it on some of the pension plans, some of the ways that things are done, some of those rural counties could very easily be bankrupt.
Right.
So that's where I think sometimes it might be something that we can look at cities or counties adopting within local legislation more so than a statewide legislation. And then it becomes a localized thing that individuals in those counties want to embrace. Now, that may mean that if using Tarrant and Dallas County as an example, if Tarrant County becomes unionized or uses collective bargaining, and Dallas County might, one might have more businesses and one might have more workers. You know, the people from Dallas might travel over to work in Tarrant County and do the extra 30 minutes to 2 hour commute just because of the benefits that they're receiving.
Sure.
And that might increase Dallas to say, maybe we need to do that as well.
See, okay, but then
I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I don't think it's something right now that we can address to have happen within legislation at the state level. I think localized, it can work very easily, and that's only because of our rural counties.
Sure, but see, okay, but then two things. There's a 2-point thing that I want to make. The one is almost rhetorical, but then the other I'd like an answer. Isn't that because that is the challenge. We've got it baked into our brains to vote against our own interests. People that are like, I have not met a single person that tell me they're against the union. When I say why, they can't really say why. Well, I don't need people dictating to me. Really? Your boss dictates to you? Don't show up for a fucking week without notice and see what happens. You're dictated to. It's like the lie that...
The only time that I've had an issue with the union, well, the 2 or 3 times that I've had an issue with the union, I used to manage retail stores in California.
Okay.
And my workers were unionized.
Right.
Okay. I'm from here, but I was living in California. That's where I met Walter.
Sure.
Within the union, I had individuals that were horrible employees. And of course, yes, just like there's one horrible cop doesn't make all cops bad, or
right.
one horrible, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
But as a operations manager, as an HR manager, I could not fire that person until they did the exact same thing 3 times.
Right. They got to be written up 3 times.
And I mean,
and it's going to be a formal write. It's going to be a formal write-up.
So I could write them up 2 times for not showing up to work.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3rd time they could call in and say they're not showing up. And that's a separate thing because they called in, but they still didn't show up for their shift.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We can get anecdotal, and Los Angeles Unified is a classic example.
Cut their hours.
Right.
And they would have their union rep come in and say, but, she has kids, and so she has to work in the mornings. I don't care if you're busy and she's a bad employee. That's when you have to let her work because that's when she's available. And I'm like, now you as a union are dictating to me that I've got to keep a bad employee.
Right. No, and I understand that. Well, I mean, listen, I taught Los Angeles Unified Schools for 3 years, and there's some stupid rules. If you're a kindergarten teacher and you get busted, and this is a true story, as one story, if you get busted molesting kids, even though you're indicted, they take you out of the classroom, but they put you to work in the district, Xeroxing crap and doing whatever until you're convicted. And in this one kindergarten teacher's case, he got life in prison for 50 million counts of fucking around with 5-year-olds. But as John F. Kennedy said, man-made problems can be often solved by man. And we had a burgeoning middle class in this country at one point because of unions, because it was illegal until 1961 for American manufacturing to be done overseas. So that being said, that's why
manufacturing was.
Go ahead.
Look, if manufacturing was back in the U.S. like it was then, and it had stayed, we wouldn't have lost our middle class.
See, but what I'm trying to give you guys is some talking points and some agenda items, because this is where it's going to have the apple cart is going to have to start getting upset. Okay, but I can't.
I agree.
We cannot keep, like, for example, Facebook or whatever. And I got a ton of blue friends here in Austin. I got a ton of blue friends in LA, and I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole because I voted for Gary Johnson. My other buddy's the asshole because he voted for Jill Stein. And I'm like, hey, listen, vote your conscience. I don't owe you my vote. You got to come get it.
And that may not be the only reason you're an asshole.
Oh, I got a lot of reasons, and I got references. And I
shouldn't just use that, right?
I got references.
I'll sign one right now.
Yeah, Ryan knows me. I got references. But that's the challenge though. Is we got to start moving past this. Kicking the can down the road or incrementalism. We'll get to it eventually. We did have a middle class in this country, and yeah, while unions can be egregious at times, and but also too, look at what they've accomplished. We have a 40-hour work week. We got rid of child labor abuses, right? We've got vacation time. We actually have health insurance now. Now these are things that are just in the workplace, and some unions have outlived their usefulness. Some unions aren't necessary. But some unions are. I mean, I work with a lot of cops and firemen, and the first thing the city does, the first thing the county does when they have a short is they want to go right after their pension, right after their benefits, right after, like because cops are such fucking rock stars. And I'm like, well, and especially coming out to Texas, I didn't know what right to work really was until I got out here. And I started figuring it out. I'm going, gee, and messing with cops and fire. I thought you guys are Texas. Don't you like cops and fire? You guys should like your cops and fire. In California, we're quote unquote liberal, crazy hippie California. We like our cops and fire. We pay those motherfuckers. They work overtime. I know a lot of cops making six figures. A lot of cops making six figures in California. And
you always have to remember in Texas, it's steers and in California it's fruits and nuts. So either way, you're not going to get you're going to get a broad spectrum from one side and the actual pendulum opposite from the other.
Okay.
I think that I would never ever be against a company's workers forming a union, doing their collective bargaining, and basically negotiating with the company to say, if we don't get these items that we would like to have as workers, we're not going to work for you. And if that company wanted to fire every single one of them, which Texas right to work state, they probably would. I don't know that if they did that too many times, I don't know that many people that are going to work there. It's the same instance if a company doesn't want to hire me because I'm gay. I'm not upset because they don't want to hire me because I'm gay. I'm like, thank you for telling me because I didn't want to work for your ass anyway.
That's right.
Now I definitely don't want to work for you. And now all my friends and all of us that came and shopped at your store, we're not going to do that. It's sort of like the bake the cake issue is sometimes a little asinine in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because there's not, unless you live in a very rural town where you just cannot get
another cake.
Another cake, why in the hell would you want that person to bake your cake?
Because they're going to put they're going to put ashes in it, and they're going to take the little grooms people and put stuff in it, cyanide. And not to be sexist and not to separate the different people in the GSM community, I say GSM by the way instead of LGBTQ. GSM stands for gender and sexual minorities, and therefore it's all encompassing. It never has to change. We don't have to add letters and symbols and numbers to it, right? And God forbid you forget somebody, right? Yeah.
And it doesn't. It also includes straight allies, and it also includes
but to be fair, though,
community.
But to be fair, not to interrupt you, I got a real issue with the Q. Questioning. The fuck is that? Sorry, you're questioning. What you had a semester at Vassar? The fuck does that mean?
For me, is queer.
Oh, queer. Okay, I thought it was LGBTQ. Somebody told me it was questioning. I'm like, how come questioning people get a category? Fuck those guys. I'm questioning. What the fuck? I'm questioning if I'm a fucking giraffe. What the fuck does that mean? I'm questioning. Okay, so it means queer?
Yeah, it would be all encompassing because 90% of the people we know are questioning about something, right?
Yeah, but you don't get your benefits denied because you're questioning. You don't get your benefits denied because of that time at summer camp, right? If you die, and your wife now, what? She can't get benefits because you were questioning in the 10th grade. What the fuck is that? So I thought it was questioning. I didn't know it was queer. I beg your pardon. I'm ignorant. I thought it was LGBT, and then the Q got added for those who. I was told a long time ago it was for those who question. So I didn't know. I'm sorry.
Well, and when it comes to the ceremony issue in regards to the different, whether you're using a venue, a photographer, a baker, whatever. And not to be sexist, right? But I worked for a major caterer in L.A. that did $100,000 weddings, was not unknown. I was like, why the hell are you spending $20 on flowers? I can buy land in Texas for $20,000 and you can go grow wildflowers.
Sure.
But if every time most of the times in regards to a wedding, there is a bride. There's a woman that's a bride that's doing it. Now, that doesn't mean the bride can't be transgender, because transgender women are often brides. That doesn't mean somebody who is gender fluid can't identify themselves as a bride. But when someone who comes in to ask about making their wedding cake, and there's usually women sitting there, usually they assume one of them is the bride and everybody else is either her friends, her mother, or the mother of the groom. And so they don't question if that person is a lesbian, because she's a bride. In the person's baker's mind, of course, there's a groom unless they tell me.
Right.
So if they sign a contract to do her cake, and then at a later date they find out that she happens to be a lesbian and they refuse, that's a breakage of a contractual agreement, and so therefore they should sue that bakery. But for them to tell you in the consultation that we don't bake cakes for
gay people, right?
GSMs,
right?
Then you should get up and go, thank you very much. We used to come in every Sunday and eat your chocolate croissants because they were awesome, but you've lost our business, and the 200 gay individuals that were GSMs that were coming to our wedding will not be eating here anymore. So if your business goes under, that's the free market working, because you didn't know your clientele, dumbass.
That's right. Absolutely. And we got kind of sidetracked for a second, because earlier you mentioned that you wanted to cut property tax. We already don't.
I want to eliminate property tax.
Okay, so we already do not have a state tax in this state. So what would you replace, or would you replace the property tax if you're going to cut it? How would you make up for the revenue?
Well, I probably would not make up for the revenue. Now, we already have some programs that are in place that we will have to fund. What we're going to have to do is, if we decriminalize cannabis, if we legalize gambling, if we decriminalize sex work, if we eliminate or drastically...
Dude, you're having a hard time with unions in this state and everything you just said in Texas?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with it, but I got to be in Granger next week. I'll tell you what. I have a hard time pushing that in Granger.
Well, I mean, trust me, there's people in Grangers that are doing hookers and blow.
Yeah, but they don't want to come on record saying they're going to make it legal.
But they're not going to tell anybody, right. And it's down low.
Okay, so you're basically talking about...
When I lived in Lubbock, you couldn't get alcohol in Lubbock. You had to go out to the Strip, and everybody that owned the strips were like the deacons of the churches.
Absolutely. Well, listen, dude, the Saudis go to London and they get hookers and blow, and the hookers are supermodels. They pay $20 a night for. I get it, but my point is that I'm not replacing revenue. Are you talking about a sin tax? What you're talking about?
No, I mean, I think it would just go in the category that we already have of a sales tax that would be attached to it.
There's no way a sales tax is going to make up for property tax. Property tax is 1.9% of the value of the property.
Okay, now when I say eliminate property tax, that's not going to be a flip of the switch. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, but it's going to be a tough platform to run on.
It's going to be a moving out of the property tax system.
Okay.
Because if you have to continue to pay rent in the form of a property tax to the state, you don't own your property. It is not your property. Because all you have to do is not pay that property tax, and they will come take that from you.
Oh, no, that's...
No matter how much equity you have in it, no matter what, they will put it on the courthouse steps and auction it off.
Right. I'm not talking about the great work the state's doing on behalf of property tax. I'm just saying, what are you going to do to replace that revenue, which is going to be substantial since we already do not have a state income tax here?
Correct. So as we work to move out of that system,
okay,
I'm hoping that within that system, and as we look at numbers, that the decriminalization of cannabis, the legalization of gambling, the decriminalization of sex work, moving the money from the lottery back into the school system like it was supposed to be in the first place instead of the general fund, working within that, we should have enough. Even if we just look at some of the half of the taxes that are being placed upon cannabis in other states, we will take a good chunk of the funding that's being spent on schools right now from that.
Well, let me ask you a question.
We already have our roads that are taken care of through the taxes that are on gasoline and oil.
Well, and don't forget, when it comes to cannabis, we're talking two ways because we have so much land.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like in Colorado. We can grow so much more here. Much more.
Well, see, and the thing I wanted to ask you was about the lottery really fast, and educate me because I'm ignorant to the lottery in Texas. In California in 1984, I specifically voted for the lottery because the pitch was a third of that was going to go to schools. Now, I'm a big fan of the idea of auditing the lottery because I have no idea where the fuck that money went. How long has the lottery been here in Texas? And why is it in the general fund, and why is money not going to the schools? Was that the promise initially?
Yes. And in 90, I'm going to lie, because I worked for the state processing the lottery applications in Austin back in, I want to say, 90.
Okay.
1990.
Okay.
89, 90, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Maybe 92. It's early 90s, we'll just say that, so I don't get no Pinocchios, right? That's when all of the processing went, and the application fee, I mean, we were getting hundreds of thousands of dollar checks from convenience store locations.
Sure.
That were just the application fees.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there's an administrative cost, and there's a printing of the machines and all of that. But I think if that was corrected back to the way it was, if we got rid of the Board of Education, not only nationally but in the state of Texas, and we move things to a more localized level, that would help with the funding. Some of the problems that the teachers are having right now is within their medical, it's attached to their district. Mm-hmm. So a small district like where I live may not have that, very much like we talked about, those teachers collectively bargaining for that health insurance, mm-hmm. the coverage, the premium that somebody in Dallas, Fort Worth, or Austin would, because that school district has 1,000 times the amount of teachers and administrators that we have.
Okay.
The problem with our schools right now is that a majority of the money goes into the administrative effort instead of the teachers and the supplies. And that's where the problem really is with public schools.
Well, listen, that's the problem with graft and corruption, right? I mean, I dealt with this in California too. You know, you've got monies coming into the district, not getting down to the kids. They get rid of shop classes with no explanation. I mean, when I was growing up, we had wood, metal, auto, right, print shop, and now those things are all gone, along with critical thinking and civics. But that's a whole other rabbit hole. But when you talk about the lottery and the money that was supposed to go to the schools, what do you propose to do about it? Do you want to conduct an audit? Because I think an audit would be a goddamn good idea.
Well, I think we would have to conduct an audit.
Okay.
For starters. And then within that audit, we would have to make sure that when it was moved that the funds went over into general funds or a slush fund in the state of Texas, that practice was repealed at the legislative level and went back into education like it was supposed to.
Right.
The lottery is not going to pay for... Look, the lottery is not going to pay for education.
No, it's not. But the money is. But I'm from California, where they take in every 6 months to a year some ridiculous amount of money, like 35, 50 million. Like, the lottery is $50 million. It's like every 6 months, like 100 million a year, 150 million a year in California. If a third of that every year went to the schools, again, it's not going to fund the entire system, but it's a lot of stuff that doesn't get cut.
True, and it allows you. Look, when we eliminate property tax, we may have to eliminate the property tax and separate school tax away from it.
See, now here's the thing, though. Okay,
and move it out to where one is eliminated much faster, and the school tax that is attached to your property is not a reason that your property can be foreclosed upon, right?
Right.
But we eliminate that as we can based on the growth that we have in under industry. I mean, we talk about cannabis as though we're going to be selling recreational medical cannabis across the board.
Which we should.
I'm talking about a whole brand new industry of industrial hemp.
Sure.
But I think Texas could corner the market on in the U.S.
But see, let me
I have a very small town up here called Levelland, Texas, that used to make jeans.
Okay.
And they no longer do because there's no money in it. But that plant is still there, and that plant could be refitted to do hemp cloth or anything, and it could revitalize that small little town where Waylon Jennings is from that town.
Well, listen, if we were able to legalize recreational and medicinal marijuana and take hemp, which is like the miracle deal. I mean, hemp does everything. You can make clothes out of it. You make everything you want to make. Plastic straws that biodegrade, that don't turn into entire islands. I mean,
amen. Can I get an amen, brother?
Yeah. So all that to say, but again, I got to come to the unless you make. And I'm trying to help you, crap. Because if you get in a debate with Lieutenant Dan, you're going to have to come up with numbers to make up for the property tax. The property tax is a shit ton of money in this state, and the sin tax, paying for hookers ain't going to be it. But to come up with a hemp industry that we can actually gain revenue from, now that's going to be significant. And so, how would you propose legalizing? And honestly, and getting the goddamn puritanical religion shit out of it. People cannot tell me that any view they got on abortion or drugs is not religiously motivated.
So,
to the man, to the person, or gay. I mean, it's just like, why? Well, because God didn't say shit. You got to hang up with it. Did you tell your parents? Is there something that you need to tell your parents? Because I'm sorry, there's no reason why anyone over 18 should give a fuck what anyone over 18 does. There's no reason why anyone over 18 should give a crap what anyone over 18 smokes or ingests or anything else. It's very libertarian, I know this. But
very true.
So those
different things that we talked about, the industrial hemp,
yes,
the medical and recreational cannabis, sex work, gambling, eliminating some programs that we already spend money in the state.
Like what kind of agencies would you? What kind of agencies would you do away with, or want to do away with? Because obviously you're only the lieutenant governor. What kind of agencies would you want to see done away with?
Well, considering I would not have that power, but
you push for it. You whisper in the guy's ear. You go, "Hey."
I would push to get rid of the State Board of Education.
Okay.
Because I think that's very much becomes a place for moral and religious rhetoric. It also becomes a place for whitewashing within our textbooks, and I think that
who would run the school? Then who would run the public schools?
Well, the locally they would already run it.
The local ISDs.
The local ISDs.
Okay.
Now that means that those that write the textbooks would no longer be looking to the Texas State Board of Education about rewriting some of their textbooks before they print them up and send them out, because for the rest of the country, that wouldn't fall on us.
But then we fall into that whole trap. I don't want some little ISD, east of Galveston, putting creationism in a fucking history book, or telling me that the Exodus is fact, because it isn't. So
what would happen is that that doesn't mean that there would still not be basic guidelines that we have. Those guidelines, we would work through the PTA, the TEA, the TSA, the administrators group for superintendents, which I can't remember what their little 3 letters are. But all of those, all of those would get together, and the only way that they would get funding is they would still have to follow a basic rhetoric or a basic set of guidelines from the state.
Okay.
That would allow for that amount of funding that is going on to change. Now, when we talk about starting industrial hemp and recreational and medical cannabis and all the other things, those things are not going to hit the ground running.
No.
But we cannot just flip a switch and eliminate property tax and have no funds going into the programs that we already have in the state.
So what you're saying basically...
That doesn't mean we can't. It's going to have to be a 10-year plan for some of those to move. Industrial hemp, because it would have such a huge pushback from the sorghum lobby, from the sugar lobby, from the corn lobby, the cotton lobby, all of the, within the cattle, the cattlemen and beef industry, all of those are going to lobby in the state of Texas for us to not start industrial hemp.
Right.
That's just a given.
So what you're proposing then is to, say, for example, have a rollout plan, the sin tax and hemp being developed
I don't call
first.
it a sin tax.
Pardon?
Because then you're acting like you're all religious, and I know you're not.
Yeah, but I like to sin, so there you go. I'll gladly pay the tax for it.
Okay.
So there, you're gonna let me toke up and do a line off a stripper's rear end.
One school district.
Pardon?
Maybe even you could just fund. Okay, maybe a classroom.
Okay.
With your sin tax.
Well, okay, but my point is you're talking about these various taxes on our various quote unquote illicit recreational items, and then the hemp industry. Building that.
The hemp industry is just going to increase the amount of workers, which would then increase the amount of sales tax that is on those new products that are being sold.
Right, and then
so that sales tax would be going into those
sales.
Right, and then at that point, once that's developed, then you guys are talking about eliminating the property tax, like say in 5 to 8 years.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Well, the first thing we would do is we would put a freeze on property tax. That's the first thing that would happen.
Thank you.
You cannot
and balance the budget.
Increase property taxes anywhere, period.
Okay, you lived in California, so you know what Proposition 13 is.
Oh, God.
I lived in California, and I'll tell you what Proposition 13 is. It's the most genius fucking idea in the history of ever. And by the way, it's a bipartisan deal. The blues love it. The reds love it. Okay, so you didn't like it? You're groaning.
It was okay. I think sometimes they get together and
it's a 40-year-old law. It's badass.
It makes it harder.
Makes what harder? Makes what harder?
Just for you to have your freedom without the government involvement.
Dude, I got news for you. And this is what I love about the Libertarians, and I love teasing you about this crap. Let's just pretend that every goddamn entitlement, even the ones I pay for, and I got a refund for every one of them, went out the window. You think we're going to get a refund on our fucking taxes? I'm going to get an extra check in the mail? Proposition 13, if we, this would be the most fair thing ever to maintain a property tax. If you froze property taxes at the point of purchase of your home, and the only time it went up was when the county assessor came by because you got a refi or sold the house. And then that person enjoys a frozen tax rate for the rest of his life unless he refis. And then you're able to also heir that. Your kid is one generation can inherit that property value.
Before it goes up, yeah.
And if the kid doesn't take a refi, he's paying the property tax on 1971 prices. And people would always ask me here, well, how does that work in California? How do they make any money? Because people refi all the time. And people sell homes all the time. My mom's still paying property. My mom and dad are still paying property tax on a house they bought in 1981. Their neighbors are still paying. Their neighbors are still paying property tax on a $37,000 home from 1973. Now, if their kid
and it's
Billy,
probably worth $3.2 million, right?
It's a total suburban little neighborhood. It's probably worth about like 6, 7 now. At the height, it hit 1.3 million when everyone was losing their mind before the crash, and then it crashed. Now it's about 600,000 or 700,000. But they're not paying. They're not paying tax on 600,000 or 700,000. They're paying tax on $37,000.
Yeah, Walter's mother's home is an ancestral home that they built.
Okay.
And I think it's, I want to say Walter's grandmother died when he was 12, so that was 1979.
Right.
And so they're still on the taxes from whenever. But I think we could have something similar to Prop 13 in Texas.
Thank you.
In regards to, you could evaluate what the property taxes would be.
Right.
Much like a sales tax, which I know libertarians' heads just exploded across the world. But, if you had a sales tax on your sale of your home, and then that was attached to your mortgage, you would only have to pay that for the life of your mortgage. And once your mortgage was paid off, you would never pay taxes again.
And that's another good idea.
If you chose to sell it,
yeah,
or somebody else chose,
right,
or
somebody buys it, they got the mortgage, they got to pay
the mortgage would start over for another 30 years.
Right. And that's
that would mean if I was I'll be 50 in December.
Okay.
But let's say I brought my house with my wife and kids, brand new little house, 4-bedroom, 1 bath, or 4-bedroom, 6 baths or whatever. And I had 5 kids, whatever. At 30 years old, when I was 60 years old and got to retire, or 65 years old if I had a 35-year mortgage, I would, at that point, I would not have not only a house payment, but also a tax payment at that point. That would allow for us that would keep revenue coming in. That's one solution. That may be the best solution. The other solution is to freeze the property taxes, work through and have them be eliminated within 10 years, and let the other industries that we're talking about get established and ready to go within that 10 years, and replace it at the end of 10 years.
Okay, let me ask you something. What do you plan on doing? Because obviously this needs to be a bill. It needs to get signed, da-da-da-da-da. So what do you propose to do with the reps and the state senators? How do you propose to start getting some of these things, some of this legislation written and screamed at come January. This January
19th.
Yeah. God damn, the time flies. Because it was 16. I went to 16. I went to the Senate stuff.
So let's assume that I get elected. Woohoo! I'm the new lieutenant governor.
Okay.
And even if the 9 senators running in the Libertarian Party get elected,
okay,
I don't get to vote unless there's a tiebreaker.
Sure.
But the beauty of the lieutenant governor is the fact that I'm the one that sets up the committee appointments. I'm the one that sets the calendar. Now, something that we have talked about is having a constitutional amendment where we can form a repeal committee, so that would be once it passed on the ballot, that would be a new committee that all their job would do would be to look for laws that are outdated, infringe upon our liberties, tax us for something unknown or stupid,
or just bad.
Not that all taxes aren't stupid, but
but back up a second. Okay, but back up a second. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not a big fan of spending stupid money, but the whole concept of all taxes are stupid. No, they're not. How do we get our roads? How do we get our shit? It's about asking better questions as a culture. We spend $1.2 trillion on defense. We spend not even a fraction of that on education. We wonder where our kids are devoid of critical thinking. We don't teach anything anymore. And then on top of that, we have the poor fighting each other. We have poor whites fighting against poor blacks, while the 0.001% completely run this whole shenanigan. But to sit there and say that all taxes are stupid. How do we pay our cops? How do we pay our fire? How can you make a blanket statement like that when you're right about a lot of taxes. I'm not going to lie to you. But how, all taxes are stupid? We have to pay for something.
They're not stupid, but all taxes are extortion. Meaning that if you don't pay them, you're either going to receive a fine and still have to pay them, or you're going to be put in jail.
Well, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. That's the whole IRS and the private corporation that they are. And by the way, that's not a conspiracy, folks. That's an actual fact that you could look up online. They're formed in Delaware. But true story. I mean, people want to act like it's.
Look, when you say that all taxation is extortion, or some libertarians say all taxation is theft, that doesn't mean that tax didn't do a good thing.
Well, property is theft by definition.
That doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean that.
Classic is by Perdome. Property is theft.
Oh my Lord!
Hey, seriously, we came here, we took it from a bunch of fucking Indians, and then we marked it up, and then we said we got Montana and New York and California, and then we sold it to each other. Shit that we took. I'm not going to give it back, but we took it. I mean, admit it.
I don't think there's any property in the world, unless it's in a jungle somewhere that is natives of the land are still holding. I don't think there's any property in the world that has not changed hand multiple times, whether it be by sale or by aggression.
Yeah, well, especially after we took it in the
sometimes
first
even
place.
a sale can be by aggression.
Well, listen, here's the thing. Look, the California and Texas, the Mexicans love to do this stuff. That we took their land. Yeah, well, and your name is Gonzalez because a bunch of white Spaniards invaded your ass back in the day, just like we did with Indians here in this country. So there was no. Well, and the conquistadors took
in
all.
In California, wasn't it the landowners that sold it?
Yeah, the landowners that sold it to the Mexican government, but the Mexican government was not a bunch of Aztecs and Mayans. It's a bunch of Spaniards, a bunch of white European Spaniards that took Central and South America, and nobody wants to talk about that. True story. Just like we took, took the land from the Indians, the conquistadors came here and they just carpetbagged their granddaddy's ass and took everything. And that's how the entire West was won. Europe, bunch of blue-eyed fucking Europeans came in and just bagged everyone in the fucking ass. My mother's Brazilian. Hey,
now not all of us Europeans were blue-eyed.
Well,
some of us were, black Irish. That's the that had dark hair and dark eyes. So you need to be careful how you state that.
Yeah, well, whatever, man. I'll live. Listen, it's a generality. You know why it's a generality? Because it's goddamn general. That's why. But the only point I'm trying to make though is we have taken and then sold it. So to sit there and be precious about it and act like it didn't happen, it happened. So you live with it.
Well, I never said it didn't happen.
So we live with it.
Did I say it didn't happen?
But we live with it. This isn't an attack on patriotism or any of that kind of shit just because I'm sitting there and telling the truth. We took it and then we sold it. And instead, we cut the Indians' hair, we took their religion, made them Christian, and gave them a bunch of whiskey and casinos and said, hey, have at it. And that was the bargain we made. It happens all over. It's the nature of empire. It's the nature of empire, man. It's the nature of empire.
And we should do better by our indigenous people. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that
everybody should.
That's going to happen based on we have people that are uncomfortable with people who want to make sure that somebody is born, but those are the same people that are fighting to make sure that there is no welfare for them to be fed, clothed, schooled, housed, or have health care.
100%. This is why I am pro-abortion, at least for the first trimester. And tell the church to go fuck themselves.
Look, I think everyone is pro-choice. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. And some libertarians, some people's heads will explode, but everyone is pro-choice. It's just some people want those choices to be made by the state and want the state and or to dictate what those choices are. And some cases that it is one choice, take it or leave it. You don't have, your choice is that we've given you your choice because we're the state and we have that power over you. Some people within that community, within the world,
when you say state, what are you talking about?
Have multiple choices.
Were you talking about an 80s era China where they were making women get abortions? What do you mean imposed on you? What are you talking about?
So some people would really prefer, that are completely anti-abortion for no reason at all. Those people want the government to dictate to you that is your choice. That's the one thing, that's your choice. You have to take that choice because that's all they're putting on the table. And that doesn't just happen with abortion. That happens with a multitude of things when it comes to the state. I mean, all of the amount of individuals that we have incarcerated because of a plant, just from decriminalizing cannabis, that's not the only thing that we have to do.
Well, then
we have to retro out everyone that is in prison or that has something on their record that is an actual drug charge. That has to be expunged, and they have to be released.
Well, but
now,
you can.
If you have a drug charge and you killed somebody, you're still going to have to serve the time for murder.
Well, that's that. But the thing is, you can thank that half the people that are in prison now are in prison because of drug charges, and 90% of those people were possession only. They weren't dealers. They were not dealers. They were not narco traffickers. They were just guys that had a couple of joints on them. That's 90% of the prison population, and you can thank that aggressiveness to Bill Clinton passing the crime bill that George Bush could not pass. So when people, this is where I have no loyalty to party, because the stuff that Clinton passed that everyone gets on about, the Communications Act and NAFTA, that was shit that Reagan and Bush could not pass. They had a big hard on for. So when people want to live in this good guy bad guy narrative, this is the space in my little black heart that I want to make sure people understand. There is no good guy bad guy stuff, and everything else is high end gossip. I can give a shit if the president teabagged a stripper and paid her to be quiet. I want my billionaires to do that. That's America. The rest of it is bullshit. Russia, the strippers, everything else. No one gives a crap that we got troops on the Chinese border right now. What the fuck are we doing that for? What is up with that? You know, and then you have the so-called left punching from the right, using the CIA and the FBI, which should disturb everybody, to make this president who's wildly unstable. Want him to go more aggressive with Russia and North Korea? Those guys are nuclear powers. I don't care how clumsy his piece is. Make it. And I want to support the guy. I don't like him, but I don't want him to fail, because fail means a bunch of more people going to die.
Yeah.
And so this is where go ahead. And
I think sometimes that we automatically have been bombarded by so much bullshit from mass media and even in social media from those people that are just spreading that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not making anything grow that is beneficial, which manure would do out in your yard.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually used against us to where the only thing that we have that is constant, the only thing that is a given in our life, is the control that the state has over us.
Okay, well, hey, listen, really quick. We got a couple minutes left to wrap up, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Has it been an hour?
Yeah. Can you believe it? It's
holy shit.
This one, when I always do and I'm sorry we didn't get to do this. I always do these little pre-interviews, and people go, "Well, gosh, I don't know what I'm going to say in an hour." Yeah, you do. Trust me. Yeah, you do. It goes by quick. Before you know, it's like we had 4 beers. I had 2 beers while we were talking, and I think Ryan's had 1. But I
had sake before this.
I
had a whole carafe.
There you go. But I want to ask you really quickly, because I know Dan Patrick and Mike Collier are your competitors in this race, and I don't know much about Mike Collier aside from the fact that he's a Democrat. What's he doing? And the more important question is, are there going to be any debates, and are you in? And is there anybody else running in addition to yourself?
There's nobody else running in addition to myself that I know of. Someone may have a writing campaign they're doing. Mike Collier is a numbers guy, so he does everything from accounting background.
Okay.
That's where he does his stuff. So in that way, the numbers that you're going to get from him are probably going to be truer than what you get from Patrick.
Okay.
There will not be a debate, I doubt.
Okay. Even
between Patrick and Collier, because Patrick's people have told him they don't need to have a debate. But I think Mike Collier, if he was smart, because I think that based on our self-defense, Second Amendment stance, our cannabis stance, our property rights stance, if he would sit down and me and him just had a round table on national or on state TV, we could probably, I don't know that I could win, but I think Dan Patrick would lose.
Well, Dan Patrick,
I think it would benefit Mike Collier to have.
We're calling
for
you
me
out
and
again,
him
Mike.
to have
I've talked to your
a
staff.
roundtable.
Say that again?
Mike, we're calling you out again. I've messaged your staff. I've trolled your Twitter.
Well, I think, honestly, my suggestion would be to stay...
We already have locations, Abe.
Okay.
We've got college locations that will let us have a forum / debate at their student unions and even do a college tour at 8 or 9 different colleges, just me and Mike. If Patrick
Well, that was
doesn't
going
want
to be
show
my
up.
next suggestion, because, I mean, you guys should just do it. Because what the hell's Dan Patrick
We're
going to
doing them
say?
even if they don't show up.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. They don't.
I mean, if you and Mike Collier did it, it would be a statement to the cowardice of Dan Patrick. Number one, number two, it just has a spotlight on his shitty fucking policies that no one gives a shit about. You know, the bathroom. There's a bunch of things you're sitting there going, dude. Like, and this is the thing. I cannot
30 plus days to see where someone pees. Give me a break.
say that again.
30 plus days of legislative time to see where somebody pees.
Right.
Or to dictate. Notice how I said that great word,
this is where politicians need to start educating and quit placating, because this is the thing that drives me bananas. And I had this conversation with my friends all the time. Sunday night, went out with good friends of mine, awesome people, a little more conservative than I am, and we just knocked heads over this dumb documentary that we saw. And I God Christ, if I can get my time back, but I can't. It's gone, but I saw it, and it is what it is. But my point is that my blue friends, my red friends, everyone is so baked into this good guy, bad guy narrative. We're good, they're bad, we're good. Dude, it's not that way. It's about the dollar. Because if you look at the two-party system, it's just one big giant party with two wings. You got the right-wingish kind of sort of that, they like abortion and gay people, and then you got the other wing that's super right, and they don't like gay people, and they think fairies are real. That's it. Everything else, they take money from the Koch brothers, big defense, big pharma, big insurance, big everything, big oil. And so there's no separation between the two. There really isn't. They take money from the same. Why do you think Nancy Pelosi and goddamn Chuck Schumer don't say a fucking thing about single payer healthcare? Because they're paid by big insurance. They're paid by big pharma.
Right.
And when people tell me, oh, Obama was a Marxist, dude, he was the black Reagan. You just didn't like him because he was black. Admit it, and I'll stop bugging you. He did everything Reagan, right now from his grave, is having a big, wet, rubbery one to pull off. If he could have expanded the surveillance state and take 2 wars to 8 and satisfy his defense buddies and pass ACA, which was a Heritage Foundation right-wing approved plan where 45,000 people a year still die, don't tell me these fucking people are good guys, bad guys. There's not. It's just one big party. It's one big club, and we're not in it, man, as George Carlin said.
That's true. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the smartest person in the room all the time. I'm right up there, but I'm smart enough to listen. I'm smart enough to learn. And I'll tell you that if every libertarian in this country was elected in November, the country would not be worse off. I don't think we could do more damage to liberty. We might do more damage to the state or to tyranny, but I don't think we could do any damage to liberty if we all got elected.
Yeah, but in wrapping up, and we do have to stop pretty soon here, but consider this. You'd still have to deal with the oligarchy that is still entrenched. It's going to be a process. You're not going to do it overnight. No one's going to do it overnight. These progressives that are winning, primaries, I'm excited. I'm happy for them. I'm glad they're winning primaries. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's awesome. Sam Hernandez gave Beto O'Rourke a run for his money, and she's an awesome.
Kerry McKennon, he's pretty awesome.
He's pretty awesome. There you go. But
don't forget to say my name when you say the awesome people. Come on.
But my point in all of this.
Didn't Ryan give you the $5?
No, he didn't give me the $5. I don't have the $5.
I thought it was supposed to be 10.
Okay, God damn it, I want $10. But so all that to say though is, once you guys get in there, you still have to deal with the oligarchy. I mean, you still have to deal with the entrenched, establishment for a while. So yeah, would the country be better off? Yeah. And then the only thing, and I'm going to leave you on this note, is you still have to deal with hubris and temptation. This is why I'm a big fan of protections. I don't call them regulations. I call them protections because that's what they are. Hey,
I want to thank you for letting us be on, man.
Hey, appreciate you. Listen, I'd like to have you come on again because it's only August now. I'd love to have you come on again and see how what the progress is with the debates. And hell, if you want to get Mike Collier and have a debate on this show, I'll fucking host it. And we'll have a little.
Well, you might have to clean up the language for Mike.
Well, I'll clean up the language. Listen, it's a broader audience and and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, these people let their kids play video games where babies are getting shot, and you're gonna get pissed because I say fuck off. Anyway, folks, my guests tonight have been Ryan Simpson and Kerry McKennon. Kerry is running for lieutenant governor in the state of Texas. Ryan Simpson has been and is his campaign manager, and he's been with us tonight. Again, if you want to visit the website, patreon.com/The Bitter Truth, you can be a bitter pill for a mere $2 a month. And honestly, guys, if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. So sleep tight.